Okay, hello and good day to everyone. Thanks for tuning in here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Once again, I'm going to be the host for today's episode. My name is Duane, and right now we have yet another special episode. Made extra special by our very special guest right now by the name of Brett Swartz. So, who is Brett Swartz? He is a master of turning tax headaches into wealth building opportunities. As the founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions and an author of Amazon's #1 bestseller, named Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, Brett helps high net worth clients navigate the tricky waters of capital gains taxes using the Deferred Sales Trust. Well, outside of work, when he's not closing multi-million-dollar deals or hosting his Triumph podcast, Brett is living the dream as a diehard 49ers fan, a devoted husband, and an incredible dad to 5 kids, 4 daughters, and finally, a son. So, Brett's mission to help you keep more of your money so you can make a bigger impact on your family, community, and beyond. So, let's hear it more for the man himself. Brett, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
So, I guess I'm going to start it off by my first question. So, Brett, tell me, what is the most fun and the most challenging part of being a girl dad? So, you can answer that.
Yeah, I guess the most fun part is I don't know, girl versus boy. I have one boy, so just being a dad, you just get to explore everything anew again, right? Because you're seeing it through their eyes. You have an opportunity to give back and to serve and to bless your children. And so I think kids are the 100% work, 100% joy in the sense that it's a lot of work, right? But it's a ton of joy. It's the best type of work. So I think it's just rewarding to be able to have children and family. And so as far as like girl versus boy, yeah, I'm still learning. You know, our oldest is 13, our youngest is 5. They're all so different. I don't even say girl versus boy. I would just say it's like they're all so unique, and they all have their each gifts and their each ways of communicating and connecting with the world and people around them. So yeah, I love every bit of being a dad, boys or girls.
I guess a lot of people were intimidated. I guess it might be me myself, because if I would choose first kid, I might choose a boy because I could relate more to like a boy compared to having a girl. We're exploring new waters, to say the most. But I guess coming from yourself, having 5 kids, it doesn't make a difference. It's just, they're all unique in their own special ways, and exciting to have them as inspiration as well. And speaking of wading through new waters, like as you, being a dad, you were more into more of the sports side of things. If I've read it, you've been into basketball and a diehard fan of a football team. So how did you transition from that to right now what you have?
Yeah, so I grew up playing sports, so basketball and football and baseball, and then mostly basketball and football in high school, and then continue on to play basketball in college. So I just always loved working on teams, loved competing. I love challenging myself. I love I guess the thrill of victory, and then the growth that you see over a period of time that you can like tangibly see, and very very specified periods of time. So yeah, I just fell in love with sports at a young age, fell in love with basketball. It was a chance for me to use competition as well as use gifts the Lord's given me to be able, to perform, which is what I love to do in basketball.
Yeah, and one thing I've read, you're below 6 feet and you can still dunk a ball with 3 ACL injuries. How is that possible?
Yeah, so at one point I could dunk a basketball, and so I'm now 41 years old, so I cannot dunk right now, but I could before, even after my ACL surgeries. So I'm just at 6 foot, so just barely 6 foot, and had 2 ACL surgeries. So yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of working out, a lot of God-given, I guess, gift, but it was only if I was totally warmed up and I was in really good shape. And so, but that was definitely a big part of my life, and still is. I still play basketball when as much as I can with the kids and the family and the work schedule. But yeah, it's a big part of what I love doing growing up.
I guess also working on God's given gift. Not like think, oh, I'm being sick, I can't dunk a ball. I guess you can always work out to do specific trainings to be able to, and I guess it also reflects on what you do right now, like the competition and being able to transition. I'm sure you needed to adapt a lot of skills going from like sports selling homes, and I guess you're dealing more about taxes right now. So how were you able to, work out, especially in the starting phase of your business? I'm sure that's the most tricky part. How were your beginnings?
Yeah, I actually did start out originally at Keller Williams helping people buy and sell residential homes, but I quickly learned that it was probably not quite for me. I really wanted to work in commercial real estate, so helping people sell apartment complexes, large apartment complexes. And then that transitioned into the next phase, which is capital gains tax solutions, where we help those that are selling multi-million dollar, not only apartment complexes or luxury homes, but also businesses or Bitcoin that have large capital gains taxes. So I look at the progression, not only of sports, but also even in careers, is how do we solve bigger problems to make a bigger impact? And so that was really the focus on each stage of the career was, hey, how do I solve even a bigger problem to make a bigger impact? And I've always liked the new challenge and the new opportunity to make a bigger impact and solve bigger problems. So that's what we do here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We exist to unlock capital gains to multiply freedom and impact. And right now we're facing the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet. And it's about $84 trillion happening over the next 18 or so years by the baby boomers, of which there's 10,000 turning 65 every single day, and about 80 million in the US alone. And about 50% of the total net worth that they have is tied to high-end primary homes, businesses, and commercial real estate. These are all subject to huge capital gains taxes, and they're looking for ways to defer that and or to make a bigger impact, have more freedom with that. A lot of people are tired of the toilets, trash, the liability, or even tired of the big house that they have and their kids are all gone. They're all grown up, and it's mom and it's grandma and grandpa living in the big house, so their kids are gone, but they have this huge tax, and so they want to unlock the capital, but they're feeling trapped by the tax. So that's where we come in and we build capital gains tax exit plans. We help solve that big capital gains tax problem, help them defer that wealth and then invest it and get income coming in from other sources.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, I'm not that well versed about taxes and stuff like that, but normally when I hear taxes, especially capital gains, it's just something that you pay off, Just like I got no control over it. So you're saying that people will be able to make some use, maybe lessening it or maybe making it profitable. Pay taxes?
Yeah, it's a study of compounding interest, right? So if you can defer capital gains taxes, and to the extent you can do that, you can build wealth, right? So think of it like a 1031 exchange for a lot of listeners who might know about that, where you can sell an investment property and can roll it into other investment real estate if you're in the US, and then you can defer that tax. So the same concept works for any asset of any kind. And every time you sell, at least in the US, you're subject to about 20 to sometimes 50% of the proceeds being taken by tax, right? So if you can defer that by having it received into a trust prior to sale, and that trust issue a promissory note, you can defer it. And then once the money's there, you can have the full amount working for you. So for example, let's just say you had a $5 million house that you're about to sell and you're about to pay $2 million of tax. Well, would you like to have $3 million or would you like to have $5 in a trust? And the $5 in the trust keeps that extra $2 million working for you, and the full $5 can be invested. And let's say making about 7, 8, 9, 10%. And that's the cool thing, that you can live off of the interest. And now you pay tax on the interest payments, but that's the idea. How do you build a plan and structure it in such a way where you keep the full $5 million working for you versus having to pay the $2 million in tax and it's gone forever? And then you can pass this on to kids and keep it rolling for as long as you want. And that's what most of our clients love about this. It's really flexible, and it's also can go for a very long time to make a big impact.
Well, your market base is basically everyone that owns a home or any properties at all. So that being said, for me, this is one of the first time that I've heard something like this existence. So how were you able to come up with this? And I guess building your first clientele should be, the starting point. How were you able to establish all of that?
Yeah, so it's usually you're meeting the who, not being the how. So I was just a real estate commercial agent at Marcus and Millichap, having people buy and sell investment property. And this was before the 2008 crash. And then when the market crashed in 2008, I saw a lot of friends, family, and clients lose half or all of their wealth. And the main thing we identified is they didn't have a great capital gains tax exit plan. In fact, the other one they had was just called a 1031, actually put them in a more compromised position. And by that, there was 3 main things they were compromised on. Number 1, they had too much debt, and they had to replace that debt over and over and over again every time they moved into another bigger property. Number 2, didn't have enough liquidity, meaning all of the capital is tied to an asset it was tough to sell and you couldn't get the cash out quick. Number three, they weren't diversified. In fact, they're all highly concentrated in one single property or one single couple assets or one single location. When you combine these things and the market shifts, that's when, like Warren Buffett says, you see when the tide comes out, you see who's been skinny dipping, right? Meaning people are in a very vulnerable position when the market shifts. And the reason is because every time they sold, they were overpaying for property, most of them, a lot of them. And then they got compromised on these three positions. And so we really focused on solving those three positions, giving them liquidity, giving them debt freedom, giving them the diversification. And when you combine the solutions to the three problems using a deferred sales trust, everything changes. And so I didn't actually come up with it. I just saw the pain in the streets from clients. And when I was in California, helping people buy and sell real estate. And then I learned it from a tax attorney, a CPA, who I think is like an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs. He's a genius for capital gains tax exit planning. And I spent thousands of hours on the strategy and with him understanding how it works. And there's a saying that knowledge is power. And once you have the knowledge and once you see something, you can't go back, right? There's the two most expensive things in life. Number one is the things you don't know. And number two is taxes, okay? So I combine one and two and say, hey, how do I help people defer capital gains taxes? And how to help people have knowledge on how to do that. And combining that is what we do here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. In fact, we wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. And this book literally breaks down my story from zero knowledge about this to where I'm at today. And it gives the background of a lot of the pain for a lot of the clients that had to suffer this. And we don't want anyone to suffer the consequences of a 1031 putting them in a tough position, or suffer the consequences of not living the freedom and impact they want to be living with their capital, but they need a capital gains tax exit plan to do that. And this is what we help people build every day.
That's an amazing story, and definitely one way to give birth to a good business plan. And a lot of people would be saving money if they have this knowledge, if they have this option to capitalize on the capital gains tax that they're currently having. So I guess my question now is, who are your target people for this? Is it really everyone, or are you focused on specific people or businesses?
Great question. So you really have to have a qualifying transaction, and that's at least a $1 million net proceeds and a $1 million gain. So when you have a large $1 million asset that you're selling that has at least $1 million gain and $1 million net proceeds, you qualify, right? Now, this could be Bitcoin. This could be a primary luxury house. This could be a business sale. This could be commercial real estate. It could be stock. On a primary home, though, we like to see about a $2 million and a $2 million because they have what's called the 121 exclusion, which just gives you $500,000 tax-free if you lived there the last 5 years. It's a little more technical on a primary home, but basically anyone else who's selling a highly appreciated asset that doesn't necessarily need it right away to go back into their other primary home. As long as they can go into investments with the money, then it can qualify for tax deferral. And when that happens, it's a home run for people, and they absolutely love it.
And what's interesting is you've mentioned, owning a Bitcoin is also part of how you can get your capital gains taxes on, because I've as someone who's also have some Bitcoins in my own, USA doesn't, the taxes in the USA is kind of deferring me from keeping things there. So people would often suggest to moving to a country wherein there's no taxes in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrencies. So how does that work out in your favor, I guess?
Yeah, good question. So if you're not a U.S. citizen, right, and you're a citizen of a different country, then you want to check with your local laws and your local tax jurisdictions. For our strategy, we're all fully reporting where we're at. We're fully reporting where we earned it. We're fully reporting where it's going. I think Bitcoin and the whole laws behind all of that is definitely changing. But some people have moved to Puerto Rico as an example, as one of their strategies. We like to say we're the Bitcoin exit strategy without having to move to Puerto Rico, and there's some cool things about living on an island like that. But for some people, they're like, I'm not willing to. In fact, we helped a client, there's a $13.5 million exit, two clients out of California who didn't want to move to Puerto Rico. And so they were faced, one of them sold 5 million of Bitcoin and she bought it for about $50,000 and it went to 50 million. And so she settled 5 of the 50 million and we deferred 1.85 million of tax by using this exact strategy. We're the first to do it. And so I would just say that, yeah, sometimes the move is not worth the tax savings. We say don't let the tax tax tail wag the freedom dog, is a good way to put it, right? Like if you really are going to be moving and that's your strategy and you want to be there, go for it, right? But a lot of people don't want to actually make that move, But if you're not if you're not a U.S. citizen, not living in the U.S., then yeah, I would say go to your local tax experts there to help you on that.
Yeah, and what's important, of course, everything is going to be legally processed. Getting your money, of course, there's going to be some cuts into it, but if you wanted to get rid of the headaches, the scare that okay, maybe the feds are going to go after me because of the amount of money I'm going to cash out, there is a way with with revenue.
Yeah, it goes back 27 years, thousands of closes, been through 29 audits. Yeah, so there's legal ways to do this and fully report it. That's the key, right? We're like, no, we sold the Bitcoin and we deferred the tax and we're paying taxes, we receive payments. And so yeah, all that's a key part of what we do to make sure it's all fully compliant.
That's the important part. And you know what? How long have you been in the business in this one?
Yeah, so I started working with this strategy back in 2009. I've been in real estate since 2006, actually, but even before that, I grew up building houses with my parents at a young age in California, single family houses in the Bay Area of California, Silicon Valley. So I've really been in real estate my whole life, but then like professionally practicing real estate brokerage since 2006, and then professionally working with this capital gains tax exit strategy since 2009.
It's in more than a decade, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And for a business being more than a decade, I'm sure you're not a one-man army. So you probably have some people or some team around you. So how were you able to establish and build up a team for your own?
Yeah, good question. We have about 18 members at this point. I think it first started with just the one executive assistant, right? To help to delegate the things that were more her strength and less my strength. That's the first thing. So identifying, what are the things that give you energy? What are the things that take the energy away? What are the things that are going to solve the biggest problem for your clients? Like what's the highest and best use of your time to make the biggest impact for clients, right? And then vice versa, also creating systems and processes for that. So that began with just the first executive assistant. And then it moved to multiple ones. And then, we started the podcast, we started the YouTube channel. So we had a podcast editor, we have a video editor, and you just keep working down the aisle for the next big thing to solve for accounting and finances. And then you look at like marketing and getting me on shows like this podcast kind of thing. So there's just always something. And the key is either you can do that yourself, which can really drag on the momentum of the company, or you can hire it and bring on somebody to focus on that like a laser and to keep that momentum going forward. And so, yeah, that was definitely a journey. I had to learn it over time. It's not easy to take that first step. It's not easy to keep hiring more and more folks, but it's definitely rewarding as I learned how to be a leader and how to build leaders versus just maybe trying to find just amazing leader. You want to try to do both always, right? But really the key was like, how do I build a leader versus just find the best leader, right? So always hire on humble, hungry, and smart, right? Really hungry to work hard, humble and coachable, and also very emotional connections with people, being able to communicate and connect well with people. And then, but build the leader and encourage that. And as the leader gets better, everything gets better. And so, yeah, that's basically the story. And this is, I launched the company in 2017 was Capital Gains Tax Solutions, but I wish I would have gone back and I was from the beginning, honestly, like probably I would have done 1 year in real estate and then I would have hired somebody. I wish I would have done that, right? Just 1 year doing it myself, but that would have been 2007 or 8. I would have hired somebody, looking back, that would have been something I would have done sooner.
I see. And pretty much, I guess, what you mentioned earlier, getting someone to train as a leader. So, pretty much it's going to give birth to a new generation or holding, training their own team. So that means less work for you, which is the main reason why you wanted to hire more people to get more time off your plate and have, laser focus on things that actually matter for the business.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily less work. It's just having better stewardship with the work that I'm doing, right? So it's just and allocating the time to what I believe are the highest and best gifts I was given to make the biggest impact for others. And that's also for my team, right? And so as a leader, as the visionary, as the one who's building company from the ground up, I've got to be willing to give up control and and trust somebody else to do certain things so that I can allocate my time and my energy to the highest and best thing. So yeah, no, it's definitely actually more work, especially in the beginning, right? Now, I think what you meant by that was eventually you're doing less work for the things that you don't want to be doing. That's absolutely true, right? And they actually love those things. That's the cool thing. And they would, they're not necessarily good at what you do. And so I think sometimes as a visionary, as the founder, we get stuck in the lane of, well, no one's going to want to do that. No, that's exactly what they want to do, right? And we're all created and wired differently, right? And so meaningful work is meaningful work no matter what work it is. The key is finding the right team member and put them in the right position to succeed and use their gifts, right? Maximize those gifts and that potential to really build momentum within the company. And so, yeah, that's a whole process of learning that and also just going for it. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to be, you're going to kind of fumble a bit and they're going to fumble a bit. That's okay. You're going to learn through that process. And yeah, but one of my virtual assistants, she's been with me over 6 years. And I go, I don't know where I'd be without the company without her. She's been integral to the growth of the company, to the systems, to the management, to the morale, the leadership. But I also, in the very beginning, built into her as a leader, right? And encouraged and challenged and helped her to grow. And then she's blossomed. And then she's taken off, right? So that's the key. Like realize that it's going to be probably a pretty heavy lift in the beginning, and that's okay. Because if you can do that, then they can eventually duplicate that to the next team hire. And that's really important.
Exactly. And, that's really interesting. You've mentioned virtual assistants. And earlier on, you've mentioned that, one of pretty much the hardest part of hiring someone new is meaning that giving access to something you've been doing that probably means a lot to the company to someone else. And virtual assistants basically are people probably you don't meet eye to eye in person, or probably lives at 1,000 miles away from you. How are you able to transition to that? And before getting one, pretty sure you have some doubts and stuff before you got a virtual assistant.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely it's called the rope method. Like in the beginning, the rope's really short, meaning like as you're extending trust and as you're extending responsibilities, it's very close and connected, right? Meaning something happens, it's not too far away from what you're already doing. But as they demonstrate and prove competency, as they demonstrate and prove trustworthiness, right? Then that rope gets longer and longer and longer. And ultimately that know, like, and trust is there, and that consistency is there, and that trusting relationship is there. You also have checks and balances and accountability and controls and things in place to make sure everything is protected, right? But ultimately, whether they're a mile away or right next to you, in the next office, or 1,000 miles away, ultimately it's know, like, and trust. It's building it up slowly, and it's also having things in place to make sure that there's controls and parameters. But yeah, but that's what I would say. It's I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but definitely the right answer is hire an assistant, whether it's virtual or right next to you, to scale. So I'm so glad I did. And again, I don't, my life and my balance of work-life balance with family would ultimately have either stalled out, burnt out, or just, again, not able to make as big impact as I wanted to for my clients and for my family. So without the virtual assistant. So I think that's really a key thing to be able to scale your business, to build your business, is just going for it.
And I'm sure, getting a virtual assistant, it's not as easy as that, hiring someone. So I'm pretty sure there are some steps that you've done to make sure that you got the right person. It's not going to be a perfect piece of a puzzle, but you can mold someone to be the right person for the right kind of job. So if you would have an advice to any business owner, anyone who's hiring a virtual assistant, what would you tell them so they have a better shot at hiring the right person for them?
Yeah. So first thing, I take the pressure off, in the sense that I think in the very beginning, I went into it pretty intense, like really intense questions, really trying to get, all of the details. I mean, you definitely need three major things: like humble, hungry, and smart, right? And the last one is you need focus. Okay, focus. Humble, hungry, and smart, and focus. Focus meaning they're all in with you, but you can't expect someone to be all in with you until you're all with them, right? And so there's also a give and take there. So I say the first 30 days is just I call it going on a date. Like, we don't need to get married. Like, and there's no pressure. The first 30 days, if it doesn't seem like it's a good fit for you or good fit for us, we'll know. And, we'll still be a paid 30 days, right? But there's no like, forced marriage here, right? We don't want to force something. I think too often in the beginning, I thought that let me just interview the people and find the person and then think that's going to be forever, right? It's like, no, there's different seasons of different careers for different people. And that first 30 days, especially, you have a great feel for it and you take the pressure off. And the second thing I would say is have them sit on your shoulder versus face to face. Okay. Sit on your shoulder, meaning watch and observe what you're doing and have them absorb versus trying to teach. Like in the beginning, I felt like, no, all my time is going to be spending trying to teach the person what I do. No, that's the wrong mindset. The better mindset is have them watch and observe and absorb. If I wanted to learn how to speak Spanish, the best way for me to learn how to speak Spanish is not to sit and watch somebody teach me Spanish. The best way would be to fly to Mexico and spend 2 years absorbing them speaking Spanish and me speaking alongside of them, right? That's just common sense. But for some reason, I think when we're hiring or especially when it's virtual assistants, we have a mentality, especially if we're new to this, it's like, I got to go teach them. How am I going to ever do all my work? And you're right. If you do it like that, it's not going to work. Instead, you say, have them watch, and better, have them record what you do. Even better, and then have them write down the SOP, the standard operating procedure for that process. Have them teach that back to you. Have them then do that the next day, or do that once they have a chance to see you do it 5, 10, 20, 30 times. As I understood that, it changed everything, because then I said, look, if you could spend 30 days with me and watch me do this task every day for an hour, that's 30 hours. Eventually, I'll be able to look over and say, hey, you've watched me now for 10, 15, 20, 30 hours. Do you think you can do this? And they go, yeah, I think I can do this. Great. Let me see you do it, right? And then they start doing it, and then you're like, okay, course correct a little bit, course correct, but eventually you course correct a few times, and then boom, that's the standard. And then here's the best part I have. I get emails and I say, hey, please process. That's it. Please process. And I pass that to them, and it's off my plate, and they in the back end process that. And that's, to me, if you can get 1% to 2% off of your plate per month, think about that. Over a 12-month period, that's a compounding interest. At least 12% off your plate, maybe 24%. Right now, you have 24% more time and energy to go do the things that are going to make a bigger impact, right? And so you do that year after year after year, and team member after team member after team member, and eventually you're into what's called the 80-20 principle, which is 20% of your time produces 80% of the results, right? So if I can get that 80% off of my plate that's not producing the 20% results, and I can delegate, even though they're necessary, off of my plate, then I have that much more energy and that much more focus on the 20%. So that's a huge thing. I'll leave this last thing with you too, right here. The ability to set your schedule no longer on Calendly or a link, because to me, that it really is a passive way, and it makes your schedule basically dependent upon somebody else. So when they want to fit it in, rather you have your assistant control your schedule and just give a couple times where you can batch meetings. And so I literally have certain days that I meet on and certain days that I create content on. And then my assistant, my executive assistant, is giving them just a couple times, and she's trying to get all the meetings back to back to back to back, versus giving someone a random calendar, right, that has 2 or 3 or 4 days a week, and they have all these random times. Then you basically get broken up in different flow states, right, where I'm meeting with somebody, then I'm trying to create, and then I'm meeting with somebody, and it creates inconsistency with the work. And so instead, don't give the calendar link. Instead, give the virtual assistant the authority to control the calendar. Man, that's been a game changer. And I just learned that one in the past 6 months. Like, I wish I would have learned that even earlier, but that's a big one for everyone listening out there.
I'm taking notes. I think because still got Calendly on, but yeah, it's actually more convenient to, focus one day just for like interviewing everyone. So it's just, your mindset is just focused and just kind of like in a podcast mood or a meeting mood. And then so the other days for doing other tasks, it might be minimal for some other people, but as you mentioned, it adds up. Like, even if it's like 2% over a year, that's a lot of time you'll be saving and more efficiency that's going to be there. I guess I kind of understand how you're able to build your business based on how efficient your working ethics are and how you're able to train your team and everything. And yeah, it's been amazing, and I'm learning so much so far, more than taxes, but also about management. And going back to your business, I guess my question is, we've already talked about the people that you're aiming at, your customers. So pretty much, how are you able to, basically sell yourself to anyone that's like as a candidate? Do people reach out to you, or do you reach out to them most of the time?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, people usually find us on YouTube or read our book or see us speak at a conference. And so everything is about creating content and really empowering our clients to be educated on tax flow mindset. Most people have a cash flow mindset, but they don't have a tax flow mindset. So we have a saying around here that it's not just about cash flow, it's about tax flow. And by that, we mean capital gains tax flow, so that people are focused knowing that that's their second biggest expense that they're ever going to pay is taxes, right? And so especially on capital gains tax for their big plans. And so just having that mindset that you need to set this up early, you need to be proactive. You need to have a plan. You could spend 5, 10, 15, 20 years building a business from 0 to 50 million. And the government is happy to take 20 to 50% of that. Or you can spend 5 hours before you close the business and have an extra 20 to 50% working for you. Think about that, right? You're selling a $50 million business, and let's just call it 20 million of that is going to be crushed by tax. And you spent the last 15 years doing this, your entire life, right? Working career. And you're about to have this massive exit. And if you just spent 5 hours and set up this trust prior to the close of escrow, you're going to have an extra 20 million of that 50 million working for you. Like it should be urgent, right? And it should be like focused. And we want to encourage those that are selling to be an amazing steward with the exit plan as much as they've been an amazing steward with the real estate they've owned, with the business they owned, with the Bitcoin that they invested in and held on through all of the ups and downs, right? Like be an amazing steward with that, right? We'll come alongside and we'll help you with that. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, again, hiring the who, don't be the how, kind of like the virtual assistant thing, right? If you want to just build your wealth all by yourself and do all the things that you've always done, well, you might miss out on an idea that'll cost you 20 to 50% of the proceeds, right? When if you just gave up some control, right? And you trust it and you worked and you built a team to help execute this. And that's the other thing we do. We build amazing teams. It's not just me by myself doing it, right? We have our team, our internal team, but we also work with the top commercial real estate operators in the country, multifamily, mobile home park, self-storage, industrial, the top, financial advisors, certified financial planners, and some of them in the world, like they're amazing, right? That are part of the team, right? So as much as we're building a capital gains tax exit plan, we're really building a capital gains tax exit team as a part of that, along with the strategy. And then we kind of bring those things together and kind of bring this full circle. As a basketball player in college on scholarship, and as a football player in high school, we love building teams. We love working on teams. We love being on teams, right? And so that's really what we're doing. We're just building a team to help you with the exit. And so once people get that, like, oh, it's not just one person in one place, it's actually multiple groups that are all coming together to execute this. It's transformational for people.
Definitely. And more trust definitely coming on that. It's not just like, just one guy handling everything. So there's more trust going to more people doing the same kind of work. And I guess my last question, time flies. I lost track of the time. So pretty much you've been doing this for like more than a decade, and you switch off from being an athlete to this job. I'm pretty sure I see your passion. I see your hunger on the job, the work that you're doing right now. So there's got to be more than just making money doing the business you're at. So why do you do what you do beyond the money?
Yeah. So here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we exist to unlock capital gains to multiply freedom and impact. And so my core values of unlocking freedom and impact for the most vulnerable people in this world are connected with the core values of capital gains tax. I see that as the bridge to help the most vulnerable people in this world. We call them MVPs. Most people think it's the most valuable player growing up in sports. You always want to be the MVP of the team, right? Be the best on the team. For us, it's no longer about being the best, although we want to excel. We actually want to help the most vulnerable people in the world. And so some of our hearts are for helping those that have been forgotten, who've been neglected, who have been stolen, who are in the darkest places. And we want to provide an opportunity to unlock that freedom for them and make an impact. And so these are things like trafficking that's going on all over the world. These are things like clean water in places that don't have clean water. This is like attainable housing that's affordable for the average worker in America. These are all the things that we're really passionate about, and being able to do that in a tangible way is what drives us beyond just saying we've attained financial freedom, or we've attained the American dream, as you would put it, of wealth and success. It's really more about significance along with success, right? And making an impact for because we believe we're supposed to be stewards, not owners. Like we don't own any of the good gifts that we've been given, even the stuff we've worked for, because we were given gifts to earn that. We're really here to be stewards of the wealth, of the talents, of the time we've been given. And when we're stewards, the pressure actually gets taken off of us because we're not owning and controlling. I feel like ownership can, and sometimes it tends to lead to more like entitlement, like, oh, I own this and now I can do what I want, versus stewardship. It actually tends to move towards gratefulness. Now I have a responsibility to go help more people, right? To be a blessing. And so it's having a stewardship mindset and practice versus ownership. And when you combine those things, and you have faith that we're here for a bigger purpose than just ourselves, it makes all the difference, right? And it helps to move us in a way of impact.
That's beautifully said, I would say. I think coming from a point of not just for yourself, making wealth for yourself, but basically helping people around you, your team and your clients. I guess it's hard to lose with that kind of mindset, especially if your heart is in the right place. Of course, blessings is sure to come for people who's willing to give and help other people as well. So it's been an amazing podcast with you. I've learned a lot and definitely taken notes, and I'll watch this recording a lot of times as well to learn from this. And before we end this, Brett, of course, if you have any shout outs you wanted to say or you want to promote anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. We're launching, by the way, tomorrow, and depending on when you're watching this, the Build It to Billions podcast. So you can give more all of it away. It's our brand new podcast. We have a absolutely amazing entrepreneurs, millionaires, or billionaire guests. In fact, we've already had one billionaire as our initial guest, David Green. We have some of the smartest, best in the world who have built from millions and scaled to billions, right? And then having, again, a mindset and a practice of stewardship over ownership. And so that's the entire podcast that's launching. We have a YouTube channel called Build It to Billions podcast. We also have capitalgainstaxsolutions.com if you want to learn how to build a capital gains tax exit plan. All of this can be found by going to brettswartz.com. brettswartz.com will have all the links to all of the things, including the capital gains tax exit planning, the Build It to Billions podcast, the capital gains tax solutions podcast, and so much more. So go to brettswartz.com to find everything.
And we'll be sure to put that in the description as well, so you easily find the website itself. And I guess that is the end of our podcast here. Thank you so much for everyone that has tuned in here again in another episode of the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. See you again in the next episode, guys. And that's all. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Feeling overwhelmed by your business tasks? Well, it's time to step up your game. Visit www.sphererocketva.com and get a virtual assistant from us at Sphere Rocket VA. Streamline your business operations and focus on what really matters.